it looks like we are live. How are you, everybody? Let's see who is here. So, I am going to come over here so I can see who's here. And then we can look at my integrated webcam. There I am. How's it going with the lights here? It's kind of crazy. How are you doing today? So today we're going to concentrate on what it takes to get a likeness, right? Some of the finer things to make a likeness. Let me move this. Oh, no, we're going to have to live with that. So basically we see we want to get a likeness, and so we're just going to start refining things a little more and maybe getting more into the transition tones and everything like that. So, let's see who is here. We have Mr. John Payne all the way from upstate New York. How are you? We have Mr. Steve Lang all the way from the UK. Great to see you. Great to see you, John Payne. And we have Color Graphics, Mr. Roy, all the way from New Jersey. And let's see. So glad Mr. Roy is here. We have Nameless Subscriber from Cali. Good to see you nice and early, my friend. And we have Mr. Rick. How you doing from Canada? So great to see you, Rick. Always a pleasure. And we have someone, the Grand Handicapper. So I'm not sure that I've seen you before, but I'm so glad you're here. Great Handicapper, where are you from? And so that is so cool that you're here. So thank you so much for that. Someone said, hi, Zavi. I have seen the contest, so I don't see Zavi. Let's see. So we have a nice little group here so far. So I'm very happy. And you guys can hear me. Testing. 1, 2, 3. You guys can hear me. That's good. So I'm happy. And let's get we have enough of looking at me, don't we? So let's be gone with me. There we go. So why don't we go ahead and change that to the 50 millimeter. Audio's fine. Thanks, Great Handicapper. Appreciate that so much. And sounds great. Thank you, Mr. Payne. Nameless says, on time for once. I'm so glad you're on time, my friend. I know work really kind of gets in the way a lot, right? So that's a bummer. And Steve says, perfect sound, thank you. So that is great. So pastel painting, I love pastel painting. That's my first love. I visually trained as an oil painter, and after 6 years I picked up pastel, and it was just the most amazing thing. And then much later in my life, I found Airbrush, fell in love with that. So those are my two main mediums, Airbrush and pastel. So today we are working on a pastel that we've been doing. I think this is like part 4, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm putting this on my screen. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to change on over to the 50 millimeter Canon 1.8. Let me do that right now. So everything's going to go black for a second. So bear with me. I'm still here, and I'm just going to take off the 24 millimeter 2.8. And I'm going to put the Canon 1.8, and you're going to see things are going to be different. Wow, big difference. So nice clarity here, plus a lot more light. We're going to have to adjust for that by, let's see, can we lower the shutter speed to get a nice look there? I think that's good and perfect. So I like that. And I'm just going to be right back. so mole stick check. Make sure I got my triangles check. And let's get ready to rumble, guys. So, oh, Nameless says she's looking beautiful. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Grand Handicapper said he's never saw the image for the October painting contest. Yes. I believe, do me a favor. Do me a favor, and Handicapper, if you can go ahead and email me at paintedglyphs@gmail.com. I'll write it in the comments here, and I'll give you all the information. Anyone else as well. paintedglyphs@gmail.com. And I will be sure to get back to you, okay? And it's cool because you have to anyway email to get in the contest anyway, so kind of works out. So that's good. All right. So I have my reference over on my other computer, and I am doing very, very well so far. I feel good about where I am. And so today is more about getting a likeness, kind of refining some shapes. I think most of the refining that needs to be done would probably be in the hair, right? So let me just move this up so I can see it a bit more clearly. There we go. So I see it clearly. And let me raise this up a little bit. Let's see if I go here. We'll just raise this up. See if that does it. Okay, cool. So now we can look at the hair together and kind of figure out what needs to be done. Okay, so we're going to come in and we're going to start working with this brownish black color. So I'm going to mix some of my ivory black, and then I'm going to pick a nice brownish color here and kind of add those two together. Black is going to be the dominant color here, and let me just situate this fan so I'm enjoying the cool breeze. Okay. Alright, so have my mole stick, I have my triangle, and let's make this happen. Okay, so basically I just want to start shaping some of the finer points of her hair, just like so. And we'll come over here. Take your time. I usually do maybe 3 strokes before I'm ready to reload. Otherwise you're just kind of making mud, and muds are only good for mud pies, not for pastel paintings. This. So now I want to kind of shape this light. So I don't want to fight the black. So if I see the black, I want to kind of bring in my kneaded eraser and kind of work that out before I go in with the lighter values. And you can take your kneaded eraser and you can kind of use a kneaded eraser to kind of shape that, which is cool. Let's see, any comments I'm missing here? And let's see. Oh, Mr. Steve says she looks even better close up. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Mr. Brad, how are you today, sir? So you can see in the kneaded eraser how always good to see you, Mr. Brad, all the way from Manitoba, Canada. I have some tomato sauce on my hand. You can tell what I had for dinner. And then right here we have some of, we can actually kind of put in some of the skin. We'll work on that a little bit better as we go. Of course, with the kneaded eraser, you're going to have to clean it, right? There we go. And remember, we're painting the helmet first, and then the other parts come later. So I'm going to come back in with my dark triangle that I was establishing the hair with before. We'll start working that hair back and forth. The hair is a very important element in this particular portrait because there's not much of her hair, so you have to get this right. Just taking my time here. Right here, we have some of this here, but it seems like it's a lot more of a lighter brown. So I'm going to come in with this lighter brown color and bring this over like this. Like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same kneaded eraser and I'm going to pull up this dark here that was accidentally put there. So I'm going to lift that up. I'm going to try making some negative spaces with the kneaded eraser. It might not be perfect, but that just means that, you know, we just use a different method. You never know. All paintings are different. You know, you might have an easier time next time. Now, what I want to do is kind of soften this over here. See how this gets a lot softer. Same thing here, this is much softer as it comes down. And then this brownish color, this is kind of making its way this way. And so with hair, I may go in with the packing peanuts a little faster with the hair, as I'm doing right now. And right here, this definitely has to go. So you see how I get rid of this kind of strange dark that got there. I'm not sure how it got there. Maybe paint gremlins, you know, while I was sleeping. So remember, I'm just working on the helmet right now. And packing peanuts are great. If you have any questions about the packing peanuts, ask now. It's a great opportunity. It's a great tool. But just paying attention and giving you know, real time to her hair is really paying dividends and making it look like her. And let's see. Okay, great. So we have, let's see. Someone tell me how many people are in the room? Oh, I love the kneaded eraser. Love the kneaded eraser. It does some really cool things for us. And you can see some of the underpainting that's showing through, which is really great. Okay, so now I have this. Let's move this and kind of begin making some really nice edge work, right? You know, it's like beautiful lines. Everyone knows that my favorite artist is Angra, and if you want to see the most beautiful lines in the world, look at any of his drawings or paintings. They're just totally breathtaking. Okay, so now that we're working on that, let's go in and let's try some of the pastel pencils, shall we? They're always fun to do. And let's see, so what would I use? What would I use? So that's kind of a yellowish golden color, I think, right? So let's try this first, and if it's too dark, we just go lighter, that's all. Alright, so right here, we're just, that's too golden. I mean, too brown. Let's go with like a mustard color. So who here likes mustard? I love mustard, but you know, I'm not too, some people are very like courageous and get some of these like really bizarre mustards. I'm just regular golden spicy brown and I'm happy. Okay. So I'm going to start with this kind of golden color, and then I'm going to, but what I want to do is I want to start to establish the direction of the hair, kind of help me with the volume, which is good. And so let's see, what is, oh, there's 8. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. And let's see. Oh, Chinese mustard. That stuff is spicy, right, John? That's good stuff, but that is spicy. So I'm going to, so this shape right here, we've got to get that angle right. And the shape of the hair. So we got to get the angle and the shape of the hair really on the money. And kind of bring that over. Now here is a gray. It's a gray. That's all it is, just gray. And let's try this gray right here. Maybe a little bit of a darker gray. So here are my pastel pencils, as you can see. So I'm looking for a kind of a deep gray. I like this one. That's a nice deep gray. And you might say, Tim, how is that? That's too dark. And it very well might be, but let's give it a shot. And you're right, it is too dark. So that means we have to go with a lighter gray. So pastel pencils and going back and forth with pastel pencils and you know, doing the triangle, using the pastel sticks, anything goes. There are no rules here. Let's try this bad boy right here. This is $2.50 for the Pit Pastels. Oh yeah, we got it. So the important thing is you want to get the direction, right? That's crucial. Direction is everything. And then we can kind of create some spaces here. So here it's more of a gray, colorless color, a colorless kind of gray here. But over here there's like real color going on. So I'm going to introduce some browns here as well, some lighter browns. Golden browns, auburn, right? Maybe she has auburn hair. And you see how I'm going to arrive at that color. So I'm not really worried of, you know, oh, it's not right, let me go back and forth and just kill it to death. Nope, I'm just going to keep going back and forth. And I'm just going to arrive at that color. Same thing here, it might be a little bit on the grayish side. I might add just a little bit of color there, just to bring that into line with everything here. And then here, these hairs are kind of going in this direction. And they don't go that high, right? So I'll just take my eraser and then I'll come back in with that triangle with the black, right? And we'll kind of calm this down. And then there's like a dark space right here. And we'll make sure we kind of bring that over. And you know, something like this, getting the hairline correct and some of these negative and positive shapes will go a long way to create realism with her. And so let's zoom down and you can see that, you know, it actually is working. So let's see, bring this down here. Let me bring in my program. Okay, so we'll just lower the drawer bridge here. And so you can see it's much softer now that we are coming in and kind of working out that hair. Now there's no rush. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh my goodness, I got to get it done. No, I don't. And I'm just going to take my time. I might come in with some white here and kind of add in some of this, these negative shapes here. You know, I might come in here and just little by little kind of start to work the flesh of her scalp into the mass of her hair. As you can see, and I can come in with a darker flesh color pastel. Now this is a rarity. I do have a De La Rowney, and this is actually a very light burnt sienna. And, you know, secret is that a very light burnt sienna is very close to flesh. And And then we can take this same value here and we can just indicate just a little bit here and there, nothing too crazy just yet. Now one of the things I want to work on is this sweeping kind of brownish color that's kind of coming along here, because she has, you know, from the side of her hair, there's very, very short hairs, plus compounded with the fact that this side plane is starting to get in shadow. So we're going to be doing a little bit of both here. So now I'm just going to very lightly start putting in some of this kind of golden color over here. And then this same golden color is kind of comes down over here, of course. And then here's a good opportunity. You can always use your packing peanuts if you just want to kind of soften this up. You can do that. And then do the same here. Just kind of soften this up. Kind of simulate that. And what I'm doing is actually setting up for the softness that's going to happen when we have these errant hairs coming in. And then now I'm just going to soften up this edge just a little bit. And let's see if we can get a little bit of this sweeping curve here. Raise this up just a tad. There we go. Okay, so we said we were going to come in with those brownish colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for something along this line. This might not be dark enough, but I can always go darker. So I'm just going to start drawing in some of these errant hairs coming along here, like so. Looking at the big shapes, even though these are hairs, I'm still going to be looking at the larger shapes. So now I have to come in with a darker value and see how this goes. So I'll have some hairs coming in and out like this where you can see them pretty visible, but now we're going to actually start to assimilate them a little bit by coming in with the values and the triangles. Excuse me. Right here we have this nice brownish color. Just kind of bring this over. So I'm always looking around, right? With hair, you just want to make sure you get the direction, the grain of the hair. And tenacity is the main word when it comes to hair. You have to stick with it, you know? And yeah, those little yellow packets that you get at the Chinese restaurant, those are super hot. Now, so you're doing good there. And so now we're just going to assimilate, maybe bring some of that darker color here. Start bringing this over. And what we're doing is we're kind of setting up for when we're going to actually start coming in with a much lighter value. Then let's look at some of the negative spaces here. Very interesting enough. Remember that really light pastel we had? Let's see if I can find that once again. That light gray. Yes, I think this will work here. So there's some negative space here in this shape. I'm just going to hit that. See how we can hit that negative space and make it a little more interesting rather than just this like really weird. And then we can kind of pull in some negative space in the hair like so. And then we'll do that around here. Kind of refine some of this, and still, you know, yet some negative spaces here and there. And again, it's all part of that whole refining process. But you always got to make sure there's enough room for the cranial mass, right? That's so important. I'm just following the light as it's hitting the large forms here. Making sure that things are not equidistant or the same size. Kiss of death to a realistic painting is when things are really, you know, at the same size, right? That would be really bad. Okay, so we can definitely adjust the hairline a little bit over here. Alright, so let's take a look and see how the hairline is. We're still far from going like real into it, but I think it's not too bad. So let's see. So what are some of the takeaways that we can kind of soften up here? So if I'm looking at this, I can see this can soften up, and then right here, that's really harsh. So I can do one of two things, or I can just take, you know, a triangle and just soften that up, and I might go that route. There we go. So now can we bring in some of the fleshy colors? Of course. So let's bring some of these fleshy colors over here. And then the super light fleshy colors. So we have to kind of reload with the white just to make that happen. And right here is the super orbital eminence as it comes out right here. And then right next to that super orbital eminence is going to be a little bit of a shadow. So what I want to do now is get rid of some of these packing peanuts that are on my easel here. And then I am going to get my trusty scissors. And we're going to cut this so we have a new triangle. What I want to do is create just a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of a darker color. Make sure it's not too dark. Maybe the foam core might work because I can scumble that. Let's see how that works. Sometimes the foam core is the thing. Yes. So I can lightly have some light contrast of the superorbital eminence, which is right above the eyebrows, right above the eye sockets. And I could kind of smooth things up while I'm there as well. Same thing here, we have this darker value, slightly darker value coming right up here, and then moving here, kind of going around the superorbital eminence. So now I can come back in with that nice light that we have, where this kind of bump, right, that's what the superorbital eminence is. It's like a bump. We need a lot more white here. And bring this. This is kind of, you can see here. You know, just like snow on the mountaintop, where it's facing the storm the most, it's going to get the most snow. And that's why we're seeing the light right there. Remember, your skull is very intricate, complex. If you don't know the skull and you're trying to do a portrait, well, you're going to have a hard time. Here, right here, is the nasal eminence right here. See that? That's a bump. That's just above the bridge of your nose. And right in between there is this little gap. And you see how that gap is important. And now I can take this and I could start kind of using this as a blending tool. Kind of smoothing this out. Now sometimes, you know, there's a perfect tool for every job, and you may have to come in with the foamies to kind of blend this in. Now that is really, really kind of like thick with the pastel. So I'm just going to slightly kind of move this over. Now it's interesting because I did get a little bit of a dark there. I'm not sure how that happened. No worries, we're just going to tap it off. See that? Don't blend that into that beautiful light area. So when you're blending, you really want to be very astute and attentive and watch your 1 second rule. Let's see if I missed anything. Mr. Willie, how are you? Mr. Willie, I sent out all the material, the inks, I sent the line drawing, all the stencils, the white mixture, the pastel pencil, and the sandpaper, and all that's been sent out to you. You should get it hopefully on Monday, Tuesday, the latest, I'm hoping. So good to see you, my friend. Oh no, thank you, Willie. I really appreciate that. So Willie is one of the first people to purchase my online course. And the online course is on the airbrush portrait from start to finish. Very exciting. So thank you, Willie, for that. I really appreciate that so much. So right here we have a dark, and you see how when I'm using the foam has its place, but it kind of is heavy-handed in how it actually applies a pastel. So the foam core seems to be the way to go. So with the foam core, I can kind of very lightly scumble that in. And you see how I'm working on the anatomy of her, right? I'm not just doing head and then just moving on. I'm really seeing and understanding the anatomy of her skull. So important. Okay, so it's a little, let me look at it and look back. So there's more going on in here. So I'm going to come in with a lighter color, and within this shape I'm kind of going to meander some lighter colors in this shape because it's a lot more complex than just putting in the value. So you see now we're starting, same thing with this here. So this right here is not a set border. It's not like, you know, Missouri and Kansas. It's more like the coastline of Chile, you know. It kind of goes in and out and back and forth. So you see how I'm not going to get away with just having one shape next to the other. There's a lot going on with the coastline. It's very organic. Same thing with this coming into here. There's a lot of organic kind of meandering in and out here. The 1 second rule is going to help us, right? And then you see like up went there. Rather than blend that in, we're going to take our kneaded eraser, we're going to lift it up. Why? Because if you just blend that in, you're going to create mud. So you want to be able to kind of control what's on the surface. And then we're going to come here and create this little transition tone right here. So all of this applies, right? You know, those who are airbrush painters might look and say, well, this isn't what I do. I'm an airbrush painter. No, this is my exact method when I'm painting color in airbrush. There's no difference. No difference whatsoever. So as you can see, this is how you create a likeness, because we can definitely notice if we just come over here and kind of zoom out a little bit. Let's look at her and just move this over. Okay. Now I'll just kind of move down, and we'll see how she's coming. So yeah, I can definitely see things are softening up, starting to look like her more. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we were working on her hairline, right? So the hairline is really important. And so that's how you start to get a likeness at this point. You start to worry about the hairline, the shapes, and I can even see that I can kind of bring the hairline softer over on the right hand side, or camera right. So we can definitely do that. And all right, so we work there. So we don't want to be about, we don't want the painting to be about her hairline, so, or this episode. So let's work on her beautiful lips. Let's see. Okay, so now we're going to work on her lips. And we really didn't do a deep dive yet, so this is good. Lower jaw bridge. There we go. Okay. Let's make sure that this is in focus. How I do that is I zoom in. And then I focus it as it zooms. There we go. Let's see. Is that in focus? That's pretty focused. See how, so look at the marble dust board, how you have all these little grooves in there. Those little grooves is what holds the pastel together. Also helps with the skin texture, and it just looks great. So that's fantastic. And Brad said, really looking great. Thank you, sir. And Mr. Steve says, she looks amazing. Thank you. And Steve says he loves all the colors that I use. I appreciate that, sir, so much. And maybe we can just come out a little bit here. And then we're going to focus this again. There we go. Maybe just lighten it a little bit. Raise the... There we go, that's nice and light. And now I'll just okay, so that's not going to move. Just move this over. There we go. Okay, so not bad. So that's pretty good. Now we can really get into her lips. And let's make this happen, everybody. So the first thing is, this is like a warm red that kind of comes down over here. So I'm going to try and mix that on my palette. And I'm going to get some fresh triangles, right? And we'll start with the foam core. So we're looking at like a beautiful kind of scarlet red. So I'll use this right here. Bring this over. And then it's really, I can't imagine any other color than black right next to it. And then we'll come in with some deep wine colors. Let's see what we come up with. This is, that's a nice, that's not a bad color. Maybe a little more wine. There we go. All right, so let's take a look. So with this, I can kind of scumble this color here. Remember, lighter pressure is going to be less pastel that you're leaving. So right over here, I'm going to actually extend this dark, and then we're going to come in with a lighter red, kind of glaze that over this. This is a very thin, hard pastel that we're putting in here. And right in here, we're going to get this shape at the corner of her mouth. And yesterday in the group class, we were talking about the lips, and the connoisseurs are these little corner things here. The Hound of the Baskervilles, you hear the dog barking downstairs. Over here, I'm just going to very lightly kind of establish that side here as well. So I'm really working only on the upper lip, and I do see there's a cast shadow on the lower lip, but I don't want to separate. I want to make sure that that's separated. That's important to me. Otherwise, you know, the anatomy will be kind of confused and contrived, so I have to make sure that I separate that for my own purposes. So I want to get the direction of the anatomical forms. So now that that's done, now we can come in with a little more of a red color. And so we're going to use the same colors, but just mix more red. So I'm going to get another one of these triangles, but I'll have more red involved. And let's see how this goes. So just a little more red. So what I did learn last night is that the lips are red because the skin is so thin, and that's why you're seeing that blood underneath. There we go. So now we're kind of really starting to kind of have some form and everything like that. Now right here, you're not really seeing black along the whole border here, only in bits and pieces, right? So right along here, there's a little tiny bit, a little sliver of black. Now I did have that, I believe, in the underpainting. So we may be able to actually use our bead eraser and kind of pull back the black of the underpainting. And you see that actually is working. See how I'm pulling back the black? So people might say underpaintings are not important. Well, I think we just kind of debunked their whole case. And that's what I like doing. I like debunking cases. So underpaintings are important because it enables you to do things that those who don't believe in them can't do. So you see how I can pull back the dark right there, just so strategically, like a chess player, right? We're playing several moves ahead. Today I was playing chess, and he was pretty much setting up and, you know, pretty much attacking, and while he's attacking, I'm deflecting, and I'm just setting up for a checkmate while he's go ahead and just going with guns blazing. And that's exactly what the underpainting is, you know. It's like those artists who go in like a cowboy, you know, they're gonna have a hard time because they might paint themselves in a corner. But we, who are just really being strategic about it, know, you know, what we're going to do before we do it, and setting things up, right? That's what we want to do, set things up. Okay, so the bottom lip is very similar, but it seems to have a little more of a like a beautiful yellow in there. So let's see what we have here. Let's try some of this yellow ochre, and let's add that to our red and see what we come up with. It's worth a shot. Let's see. Yeah, I do like that. It is a very interesting kind of salmon-y color. And let's see if I'm missing any comments. Mr. Mike DeLoach, how are you today? So glad you're here. And let's see. So I'm so glad you're here, Mr. Mike. Mike says he's seen a cat and dog house mates that thought they were related. Oh, so at Nameless Subscriber, he's seen the cat and dog housemates that thought they were related. That's funny. Pack mentality. Hey, Bob, how are you? Mr. Squeeze, great to see you, sir. So cool. Really love the wonderful painting you did of the bongos. That was fantastic. Plus the boat scene, just great. So Bob does pastel, airbrush, and also acrylic paintings. Just incredible stuff. Really is. So I'm just pulling this over. So you see I'm getting that skin tone, the little difference of the bottom lip is because I added yellow little ochre. Now this is kind of like the base color of the lip, but watch this, we're going to start coming in and lightening this up. So how do we lighten it up? By adding the flesh color, not necessarily white. So I have that, and then we're going to take a really nice flesh color. So let's see what we have here. So we're starting to get a little softer with our pastels, right? Because we're going from hard pastels to soft, and everything's just getting a little bit softer. So now I'm going to, this is such a, whoop, okay, that kind of changed our viewpoint here. Let's see, where are we? Okay, there we are. We're back. So we're going to add this color here, which is like a burnt sienna, and we're going to add this to our flesh mixture, and then we're going to add that to our lip mixture, and then we're going to start coming in with the foam, right? Because we're adding a softer pastel application because we're going over pastel already. So let's mix this and see how this goes. I kind of like this. I may have to go lighter. Yes, definitely have to go lighter. We're going to add some white to this. I think that would be a good idea. So actually, let's try this yellow. It's a really nice light yellow. Let's give that a try. Put that right next to it. And let's strategically mix this. A little bit lighter. There we go. And then we can actually take this, and so one side we'll have as our like filbert brush, and then on the other side we'll use as our detail round. So I have this here, and then I'll take this side and I'll cut it like so. Please bring the dog in. Hopefully the neighbors heard me. And let's see if we can just bring this over. So you see how we're really getting the shape of the lips by adding in these other values. And of course, we're going to go back and forth until we're happy. And that's also shaping the anatomy of the lips. And then we can, after this, after we have that, and then just continue going back and forth, we have the original very dark of the lips, and we can kind of shape that value coming down like this here. Like so. And then on this side it's slightly darker right here. Same thing right here. So even though it's a dark value, you want to make sure that you're getting some life into that color. You don't want to just be black in color. You want to put some life into that, just like so. And it just makes things much more interesting. And now let's take a clean foam right here, and let's see if we can just start to, wow, is that not annoying? Okay. So I'm really loving the way those lips are looking thus far. And then we're going to come in with this really beautiful scarlet color. And these are the things that really help with the likeness. Okay. And we'll come back in with that flash. There's a lot of moving back and forth and just getting everything situated. And then let's try some of those packing peanuts. And these packing peanuts are great because you can kind of knead them in your hands, and we can kind of blend some of this here. And then we come in with the highlights, and then, you know, continue refining as we go. And then let's come in with that really lighter color again, right here. Kind of separate the parts of the lip there. See that? Which I think is good. Okay, just like so. And then take our packing peanuts and let's blend that in a little bit. Okay, and right here, once again, we're just going to move this over. Great, and this is interesting. So here we are, we have the kind of light flesh tone, and you see there's a light value coming over here at the corner of her mouth. You might as well put that in. And for that light value to work, you have to have a darker value next to it. So I'm going to come in with that kind of yellow ochre-y kind of color and put this here. And soften this up now that we're here, kind of moving over to the bottom part of the lip there. So we were kind of neglecting the lip, weren't we? So now we're going to rectify that. Let's see. lower this here. And then move this over. Here we can lower just a little bit more. Okay. Hopefully I won't touch it. So let's see. So Mike says, of course, being a Renaissance man has its advantage. He can do work about 20% of what a shop wants. That's pretty cool. That's good to hear. Let's zoom out. I think that's going to be our best decision. There we go. So we can see how the lip is developing, which is really good. I can also see that I can probably put a little more red. So I can take pastel pencil. That's kind of a deep red. And let's see if we just kind of put some life here. There we go. Kind of put some life in those lips there. And then Squeeze says, lips are looking great. Nice puff of the tubercles. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yes, we learned about the tubercles last night. The protuberances, they called them. And let's see. Brad says he has 5 black cats here on the farm in case anyone wants some for Halloween. And Willie says he could rent them out. That's funny. And plot twist, the cat is bilingual and is framing the dog. That's pretty funny. Cats are really smart. They really are. And I can definitely understand a bilingual cat. There would be bilingual cats. Put some life in her nose here. Now what's interesting here is that we have to do this little platform of her mouth. Now this is kind of a fleshly skin area where the lips actually sit on. The lips are not like flush to the face or anything like that. It's like a separate entity. We can bring this down here. So there's something going on here. Come in with the packing peanuts here, and we'll just kind of soften up this edge here, which is really cool. And so let's start. So we have this going on, and we can probably, accentuate that by kind of putting in darker values here. Now your concern should never be that you want to get a likeness, but this is how you do get a likeness, by just paying attention to the shapes and start refining them. And don't be afraid of using as many triangles and, you know, as many of the foam core, and, you know, it's all about the art, right? So that's so important. So now we have this, and I'm just going to cut this down. Okay, so we have sort of a yellowish kind of golden color coming right over here. Now remember that this right here is the mental protuberance, and on top of that mental protuberance is something called the mental fat, and it's a golf ball type of shape for the most part in most people, and in her definitely that's the case. So right now I'm kind of setting up to lighten up that golf ball, and now we can come in with a really beautiful, very light flesh color. And of course I have my flesh color already mixed up. And let's worry about this shape right now. We'll start with the local color, which is not really as light as we're going to get. Okay, so we're starting to feel that turn. And now let's go ahead again and get our packing peanut at this point, and we can go ahead and kind of soften this up here. Okay, so now we're going to add more white to that flesh color. And really get a nice powerful light. Of course, a packing peanut would not work at this point because we're laying it over the pastel. So we're going to move on over to the foam core. And let's really lay it on nice and thick. Great because you see the model start to reveal herself, which I love. And if you ever get overzealous like I did there, now, see how I'm lightening it is kind of making that whole area turn. Well, I'm setting myself up to really hit the highlights, which are coming. Very lightly. Right here. And now I'm going to come in with a softer pastel. And this pastel may be something as soft as, let's say, a Winsor Newton, or maybe even softer, like a Schminke, something like that. I'm going to build up this light right here. And now we're going to feel that chin turn just a little bit. We can refine as we go, but I'm liking it. Put that right there as well. Alright, so now I'm here with this color. Let's see if we can find some homes for it. be a home for this light color right here, just like so. Right here. This would be like pumping the trigger in Airbrush. Right here. Right over here. Right here. Okay, so now I'm going to get my packing peanut. I'm going to be really, really careful not to kill this, but just kind of soften those edges here and there. Okay, so that's basically, you know, where we are right now, which is pretty cool. And you can see things are getting a little, let's see, who's leaving here? Let's see. Hey Nick, how you doing? Great to see you, sir. So glad you're here. And so Brad says, thanks for another great feed, Tim. Have a great night, sir. Take care. See you Monday. And so that's cool. So what time we got? 9:30. We started at 8 or 9:23. So we'll go a little bit longer. So I'm pretty happy with where things are going. Let's take a look and kind of recap of what we did thus far. So we'll just come over here and we can see some sort of things that we need to adjust. So it's really dark over here on this part of her lip there. I may lighten that up or maybe even catch this up on this side, not quite sure. But what we did was we caused some three-dimensionality over here at the mental fat, which is at the mental protuberance. And then we actually added some light over here. And so in the beginning of today's class, we basically worked on the supraorbital eminences on both sides, and we can only really describe it by darkening what's next to it, and then we'll kind of refine those shapes. But the skull is very important, and then over here you can see we've been working on the hairline, refining that as we go. And so we haven't really done any of the highlights yet. Maybe we can just start by adding some highlights and see how that goes. And we may have to adjust, but that's always a very fun way of, you know, seeing how things are. So right here, looks like either I might have just did that. We just have to fix that. And then we can probably make the retroabicularis oculi fat right here. We can kind of make that a little more round. And also I want to be mindful to add more of the cooler colors. And that is, basically I was wearing more of the oranges and the reds. But now I'll start coming in with some greens and some blues and everything. Some of the grays that are going to give it more of a Bouguereau kind of feel. It's not that I don't see the colors, it's just those are like the real refining colors in between the shapes, so we really aren't there until maybe in the very near future. So we're going to be mindful to start adding them, and that would be good. And so I'm pretty happy with where we are thus far, and things are going really well. Like I said, I could care less about when it's done. I don't care if this is going to be done tomorrow I don't care if there's not a likeness until next week. It's just following the process. And you have to follow the process. There's no way around it. If you want to make a souffle, you better follow the process or you're going to end up something that's not a souffle at the end. So always stick with the program, you know. Nick says, random question. Here, is there a blue shift in pastel? Beautiful, beautiful thing about pastel. Blue shift is a faint memory. It's not even, it will never happen, at least the way that I work in pastel. It will never happen because it's like the way that it's pure pigment, so there's no like any kind of bleaches added when it comes to wet pigment, especially in airbrush and acrylic. You know, there's nothing happening with that. So blue shift is definitely a thing of the past, Nick, and you're going to be very happy working in pastel because it's liberating, quite frankly. So let's see. So let me just zoom a little bit and get a good focus here. Oh yeah, we were gonna work on the highlights, right? That's what we were gonna do. So let's put some highlights in here, my friends. Look how beautiful that focus is. You know, this is not a webcam. This is a DSLR. It's a Canon SL2, one of my favorite still cameras. It's an older model, but it kicks butt. I'll tell you that much. So also, when you're looking at this portrait, it was so important that with the reference I actually got the same gray that's behind it. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to gauge the reference if I changed. If I'm working from a reference that has a light gray background and then I decide to be artistic, quote unquote, and change the background to, let's say, a dark Rembrandt-like color, it's going to throw everything off. And half the time I'm going to be, you know, compensating and all of this, and it's just a recipe for disaster when it comes to color. Working in color is far different than working in black and white. Not better, not worse, just a different side to the same coin. And Squeeze says, no pastel blue shift that he's seen. Interested in Tim's response. Yes, blue shift does not exist. What would cause a blue shift? That would be putting white over a darker color. Now watch this. We're just going, and I'm going to use a hard pastel. Not going to use a soft pastel. This is a Holbein. That's a semi-hard pastel, but look at this. Nothing. The worst possible thing you'll have is actually a beautiful, very predictable mixture of a gray that comes out of it. So that's the great thing, is that it's predictable. It works the way it does. There's no chemical reaction. That is the annoying part of working in, let's say, airbrush or acrylic. Or now I haven't seen blue shift in oils either, and so right here you just get a very predictable gray, and so that's cool. And when I first started working in airbrush back in 2010, early 2010, blue shift was like a new phenomenon. I was like, what is that? And then when you try to fix it, it gets like worse. That's like, really was quite daunting, you know? It really was. So I'm gonna go take I'm gonna put the kettle on and take a quick young man's room break, and I'll be right back. Great blue shift question. so I'm pretty happy with where things are going, where they're heading, and that's what we really have to do. Except for the dog barking, everything's going really well, incessantly barking. Let's see here. See if I can get my picture back on the monitor. There we go. That's perfect. And okay, so we're going to start working on some of the highlights here. And let's try this right here. And of course, in photographer land, this is called a catch light. And we're going to do a catch light here as well. And of course, all that is the flash that the photographer was using and the light modifier. Just like so. There we go. So that looks not too bad. And then we could work on this. So you want to make sure if you get, let's say, the highlight on the nose just a few degrees lower and to the right, you're going to change the shape of her nose. So be very mindful if you want it to look like your model. Make sure that the lights and the highlights are in the right spot, because it will change the whole shape of everything. And of course, I may just change everything, but I'm just playing with this for now. So annoying. And you can see you may get overzealous and kind of extend that highlight too far, and that could really go a long way in changing her likeness as well. So you want to make sure you get this correct. Here. So I always love this little kind of windowsill of the lower eyelid. Lights really helps me to realize just how much darker I have to go with the light of her eyes. Add a little bit of light here to this area. And what that's going to do is when I come and lighten this far cheek, it's actually going to, remember I always say that the adjacent shape often describes the shape more than the shape itself? And here's a real case in point. Okay, so now we'll come back in with the packing peanuts again. I really love how it describes the form. And then in the side plane of the nose, there's a lot going on, so I'm just going to scumble some light into there. And I'm putting super light pressure. And that super light pressure is going to just kind of glaze over that ever so lightly. Same thing over here. The shaping of this light here. Again, my reference. I think I went a little overboard right here. Okay. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm kind of, oh, before we do, let me do some fun stuff with her lips there. And like I said, this is more for entertainment purposes. I may go over this. But I can add some highlights of this lip here. Kind of comes up and kind of follows. And I'll re-describe those forms, but it's nice how you can really start making things a lot more three-dimensional and softening her up. And from the very beginning we were talking about how to get a likeness is to just stick with, you know, painting the forms, and then kind of bring this up here. Alright, so let's take a look. So my tea is going to be ready shortly. So it's 9:38, so that's not bad. I think it was a good class. Let me double check here, see if anyone has made any comments. Oh, Willie says, how do you sharpen a pastel pencil like that? This was an electric pencil sharpener that kind of died, but it did work for a while. I have to go in there and try and fix it. Well, this is actually a charcoal pencil, and they sharpen a lot better than pastel pencils. And so that's really cool. So everyone, I just want to thank you for hanging out. I really appreciate it. Let me go ahead and zoom back out, and so you can see how she looks thus far. I'm going to zoom. Actually, while I do this, before I zoom out, I'm just going to come over here, and I'm going to change out with the 28mm lens. Here. Change it for the 24mm, not 28. Okay. So there we are. And let me zoom in here. Focus. Make sure we really can focus here. Okay, that's nice and focused. So basically this is where we are right now, and I can even move. No, that's fine. So So yes, little by little we're creating a likeness. We're softening her up. She kind of looked like a boy for a little bit, but that's because we're working on the large shapes. And as we go forward, we refine and just start, bringing in more color. Now, as far as the lights, I'm probably going to go over that again and probably make sure the color values and color shifts are fine and then come back. And so that's basically where that's at. Take care, Steve. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate that. And thank you for the wonderful compliment. Thank you, Willie. I appreciate it. So this is where we are now, and I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Really enjoying getting back into live streaming pastel. I haven't done it in years. I have done pastels, but I haven't done it in years. So if anyone wants to learn color, oh, you're welcome, Nameless. Going into pastel is going to transform your airbrush color. Not the other way around. Working in airbrush color is not going to help your pastel color, but working in pastel color is going to enhance and make you a better colorist with the airbrush. I will get into that a little bit more next week and explain why. Patty, how are you? How's everything? So basically, for those who are working in airbrush and great airbrush artists out there, working in pastel is going to revolutionize how you actually see color. And so I hope you guys have a great week. Don't forget, on Wednesday is my my airbrush live stream. It's going to be a new portrait, so definitely come by. And part one is always really super interesting, right? And with the new emphasis on anatomy and things like that is going to be very exciting. The science of light, that's what you're going to get from my live streams. The science of light, anatomy, the science of color. Also, the intangibles, right? The emotional qualities of a portrait, how to bring out the likeness, how to bring out the character of the model and things like that. Thank you, Patty. I really appreciate that. Don't forget that if you go to the Ink Flingers Art Academy, I believe it is, or Ink Flingers Academy. Let me double check. Let's see. I think it's inkflingersacademy.com. Let's see. Yes, if you go to inkflingersacademy.com, there you will see my online course, which is really amazing. It's almost 4 hours of instruction from beginning to end. Hey Colette, how are you? Great to see you. And so that's definitely Ink Flingers Academy. I'm going to be adding more courses with time, but that is really a steal. It comes with the line drawing. It comes with the customized stencils. It comes with a set of the Airbrush India inks, the white mixture, and it also comes with a white pastel pencil, a kneaded eraser, and sandpaper to actually go through that technique. Oh, and the stumps as well. So definitely check that out. I mean, it's really, let me see if I can get the link for you, if you don't mind waiting. Let's see here. We are right here. I'm going to come here. Great. And right here I do have the link. Control Z. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's see. Control Z. Control C, come over here, and in the description I'm just going to put a link, and that is Control V. So go ahead and hit that. That would be cool if you want to see the course and what it has. I'm so proud of it. It was like a year in the making. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Bob, Squeeze, Colette, Patty, Willie. You guys are all fantastic. And oh, so Willie says he uses a hand cranked 155 professional. Oh, look at that. That's really cool. Yes, that is great. I'm gonna definitely. I have one of them, but I don't think I'm using it as well as you are. I have to learn. I think a little piece broke out, so I got to do like a lead-ectomy on my pencil sharpener. Take care, everybody. You all are fantastic. Thanks, Bob, everyone. And I hope you all have a great, and my tea is calling me, so I will see you soon. Bye, guys.